Marcus Chen floated in the darkness of sleep, his body completely relaxed in the zero gravity of his small ship. The hum of the engines was his lullaby, the same sound that had put him to sleep every night for the past 3 years. He was a salvage operator, traveling alone through the outer reaches of known space, collecting abandoned tech and selling it to whoever paid the best price. Tonight had been particularly exhausting. He had spent 14 hours fixing a cooling system that kept shutting down. The work was hot, dirty, and frustrating. When he finally finished, Marcus had stumbled into his quarters, stripped off his sweat-soaked clothes, and collapsed onto his sleeping mat without bothering to put anything else on. It was his ship. He was alone. Why bother with clothes? That decision turned out to be a terrible mistake. Marcus woke to the sound of heavy breathing that was not his own. His eyes snapped open, and his heart nearly stopped. Standing directly above him, blocking out the dim emergency lights, was a massive alien warrior. The creature stood at least 7 feet tall, covered in dark chitinous armor that looked like it had grown from its skin. Red eyes glowed behind a helmet that had sharp angles and threatening spikes. In one clawed hand, the alien held a weapon that crackled with blue energy. For a moment, neither of them moved. Marcus stared up at the alien. The alien stared down at Marcus. The silence stretched between them like a rubber band about to snap. Then Marcus realized he was completely naked. He grabbed the thin blanket and yanked it up to his chest, his face burning with embarrassment. "Who the hell are you?" he shouted, his voice cracking slightly. "What are you doing on my ship?" The alien took a step back, its head tilting to one side. When it spoke, a mechanical voice came from a device on its neck. The translator turned the alien's deep, rumbling words into English. "I am Kelthar, First Blade of the Vakrian Imperial Fleet. We detected your distress signal and boarded to rescue survivors." The alien's eyes narrowed. "But we did not expect to find... this. This," Marcus repeated, still clutching his blanket. "What do you mean, this?" Kelthar gestured with his free hand, the claws gleaming in the low light. "You are a warrior, yes? A soldier who travels through dangerous space." "I'm a salvage operator," Marcus corrected, slowly sitting up while keeping himself covered. "I collect old tech and ship parts. I'm not a soldier. You travel alone through the contested regions, where 3 empires wage war." Kelthar's voice held a note of confusion. "You must be a warrior. Yet we found you sleeping with no armor, no weapons, no guards. You did not even wear protective clothing." The alien paused, and Marcus could swear he heard disbelief in the translated voice. Why would any intelligent being make themselves so vulnerable? Marcus opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. How was he supposed to explain human sleeping habits to an alien who apparently slept in full battle armor? "I was tired," he finally said. "I worked for 14 hours straight fixing my cooling system. When humans get that tired, we need to sleep deeply. We can't do that in armor, or with weapons, cannot?" Kelthar leaned forward, his red eyes seeming to glow brighter. "Or choose not to. Both, I guess." Marcus rubbed his face with one hand. "Look, can you turn around or step outside so I can get dressed? Then we can have this conversation like civilized beings." Kelthar made a sound that the translator did not convert. He turned away, facing the door. "Your species is very strange," he muttered. Marcus quickly pulled on his pants and his shirt, his hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline. When he was decent, he cleared his throat. "Okay, I'm dressed. Now what's this about a distress signal?" "I didn't send any distress signal." Kelthar turned back around. Behind him, 2 more Vakrian warriors entered the small quarters. They were slightly smaller than Kelthar, but no less intimidating. All 3 of them stared at Marcus like he was some kind of bizarre puzzle they could not solve. "Our sensors detected an emergency broadcast from this vessel," Kelthar explained. "We were the closest ship, so we responded. The message indicated critical system failure and requested immediate assistance." Marcus felt his stomach sink. "Oh no, the cum relay!" He pushed past the aliens and hurried to the small bridge of his ship. The Vakrians followed, their heavy footsteps echoing in the metal corridors. When Marcus reached the main console, he pulled up the communications log. Sure enough, the faulty cum relay he had been meaning to fix for weeks had finally died completely. In its death throes, It had sent out a garbled message that the Vakrian ship had interpreted as a distress call. "It's broken," Marcus said, tapping the screen. "This isn't a distress signal. It's just old equipment failing." "I'm sorry you came all this way for nothing." Kelthor moved beside him, studying the readouts, even though Marcus doubted he could read human interfaces. "You travel with broken communication equipment?" The alien's tone suggested this was yet another piece of evidence that humans were completely insane. "How do you call for help if you need it?" "I usually don't need help," Marcus said, though even he had to admit that sounded weak. "I stay away from trouble. You are in Sector 7. "Gamma," one of the other Vakrians spoke up. "This sector has seen 17 battles in the last galactic month. How is this staying away from trouble?" Marcus shrugged. "The battles make for good salvage. Ships get destroyed, parts float around, I collect them. Nobody bothers a small ship like mine." Kelthor made that untranslatable sound again. "You scavenge battlefields. Alone. In a ship with broken equipment. While sleeping without any protection." He turned to his warriors. "I have fought the Krill Syndicate, the hive mind of Sector 9, and the Void Terrors beyond the Rim. But I have never encountered a species as reckless as these humans." "I've survived 3 years doing this," Marcus protested. "I'm good at what I do. Survival and luck are not the same thing," Kelthor said. "One day your luck will end, human." Before Marcus could respond, an alarm beeped on his console. He pulled up the new data, and his eyes widened. "That's an actual distress signal," he said, pointing at the screen. "From a derelict station about 2 hours from here." Kelthor leaned in to look. "The Meridian Research Station. It was abandoned 6 months ago during the Krill advance. What is there to salvage?" "Research stations usually have valuable data cores," Marcus explained. "If I can get there first and pull the cores before they degrade, I can sell them for enough credits to fund my operations for 6 months." The Vakrian warrior studied the screen for a long moment. Then 3 more signals appeared, all converging on the same station. "You are not the only one who received this signal. Those ships belong to the Krill Syndicate. They will claim the salvage by force." Marcus felt his hope deflating. The Krill were notorious pirates and scavengers. They traveled in packs and killed anyone who got in their way. His small ship would not stand a chance. Kelthor straightened to his full height. "Human, I have decided something. You are too reckless to survive alone. It offends my honor as a warrior to let such a foolish being die in space." He turned to his warriors. "We will escort this human to the station. We will help him claim his salvage. And perhaps along the way, I will understand why his species chooses vulnerability over strength." Marcus blinked in surprise. "You're going to help me?" "Consider it payment for the entertainment you have already provided," Kelthor said. The translator almost seemed to carry a hint of amusement. "I have never seen a warrior sleep naked and defenseless. This story will be told in Vakrian halls for generations." Akus felt his face turning red again. "Great, just great." But as embarrassing as it was, he was not about to turn down help from 3 heavily armed alien warriors. The salvage from that station could change everything for him. And if he had to endure some teasing from aliens who slept in their armor, well, that was a price he could pay. "All right," Marcus said, extending his hand in the human gesture of agreement. "You've got a deal." Kelthor looked at the offered hand for a moment, then carefully clasped it with his clawed fingers. "Then let us begin this strange partnership, human. But first, promise me you will wear clothes from now on." Marcus laughed despite himself. "Yeah, I think I can manage that." Part 2. Cultural collision. Kelthor refused to leave Marcus's ship. The alien warrior planted himself in the doorway of the bridge, arms crossed over his armored chest, and declared that he needed to understand human behavior before they could proceed to the derelict station. His 2 fellow warriors, who introduced themselves as Vex and Rallman, took up positions in the corridor, looking equally confused by their leader's decision. Marcus sighed and gestured to the cramped space. "Fine. What do you want to know?" "Everything," Kelthor said simply. "Start with why you sleep without protection." "In Vakrian culture, sleep is the most dangerous time. We rest in shifts, always armed, always ready. To be caught sleeping without armor is to invite death." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck, trying to find words that would make sense to a warrior species. Humans need deep sleep. Real, complete rest. Our brains do important work while we sleep. We process memories, heal our bodies, and restore our energy. We can't get that kind of sleep if we're uncomfortable or worried about danger, so you choose comfort over safety. Kelthar's red eyes gleamed with what might have been disapproval. We choose trust, Marcus corrected. We build safe places, lock our doors, and trust that we'll be okay for a few hours. Besides, sleeping in armor would be terrible for our bodies. We'd wake up sore and exhausted. Vex, the smaller of the two warriors in the corridor, spoke up. But what if enemies attack while you sleep? What if your safe place is breached? Then we wake up and deal with it, Marcus said. It doesn't happen often, and when we're on ships like this one, we have sensors and alarms to warn us. He paused, glancing at his faulty comm system. Usually, Kelthar made that untranslatable sound again, the one that Marcus was starting to recognize as Vakri in frustration. Show me the rest of your ship. I want to see how humans live when they travel alone. Marcus gave them a tour, which did not take long given the ship's small size. He showed them the tiny kitchen where he prepared his meals. The Vakrians were baffled by the concept of cooking, as their species apparently consumed nutrient paste that required no preparation. He showed them his storage area, filled with salvaged parts and equipment. Kelthar seemed mildly impressed by the organization, at least. Then Marcus made the mistake of showing them the bathroom. "What is this chamber?" Kelthar asked, peering inside. "It's where I clean myself," Marcus explained. He demonstrated the shower, turning on the water. The three Vakrians jumped back as if he had activated a weapon. "You stand under falling water?" Rallman asked, his voice rising with alarm. "Voluntarily?" "It's called a shower," Marcus said, turning off the water. "Humans need to wash regularly. We sweat, we get dirty, and we like feeling clean. It's relaxing." Kelthar stepped closer, examining the shower head with the intensity of a scientist studying an alien artifact. "You close your eyes. You cannot see threats approaching. The sound of water masks other sounds. You are wet, which makes movement difficult. And you do this naked." He turned to Marcus with what looked like genuine concern. "Human, do you have a death wish?" Marcus could not help but laugh. "It's just a shower. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. It's perfectly safe. On your homeworld, perhaps," Kelthar said. "But in space? In hostile territory? This is madness." Before Marcus could defend his hygiene habits, the alarm on the bridge beeped again. He rushed back to the console, the three Vakrians following close behind. The screen showed new data that made his heart sink. 3 ships had changed course. Were now heading directly for the Meridian Research Station. The signatures matched Krill Syndicate vessels. Fast attack ships with heavy weapons. They would reach the station at least 30 minutes before Marcus could. The Krill move quickly, Kelthar observed, reading the data over Marcus's shoulder. They will claim the station and defend it against any who approach. Then we're too late, Marcus muttered, disappointment heavy in his chest. 6 months of funding, gone. He would have to find other salvage, smaller jobs that paid less and took more time, but Kelthar surprised him. The warrior's hand came down on Marcus's shoulder, the weight of it substantial even through the armor. "We are not too late. The Krill are fast, yes, but they are also predictable. They will take the direct route, using their speed to arrive first. What they do not expect is creativity." Marcus looked up at the towering alien. "What do you mean?" "You humans, you do not rely on strength or armor. You survive through adaptability." "Yes." Kelthar's eyes gleamed. "Show me. Show me how a human thinks." Marcus turned back to the console, his mind racing. The direct route to the station went through open space, clear and fast. But there was another way. A longer path that went through the debris field left over from a battle 3 weeks ago. Destroyed ships, broken stations, floating metal and ice. It was dangerous. Most pilots avoided it. But Marcus was not most pilots. "I can get us there faster," he said slowly, plotting a course through the debris field. "But it's going to be risky. One wrong move, and we'll crash into wreckage." "Risk," Kelthor said, is something we Vacrians understand. Plot your course, human. My ship will follow. Marcus's fingers flew over the controls. He sent the course data to Kelthor's vessel, which was docked alongside his own. Your ship is bigger than mine. You might not fit through some of these gaps. Then we will make ourselves fit, Kelthor said. He turned to his warriors. Return to our vessel. Prepare for difficult navigation. And tell the pilot to follow the human's exact path. Exactly. Vex and Rollman saluted and hurried away. Kelthor remained behind, watching Marcus with those intense red eyes. I will observe from here. I want to see how you navigate this danger. Marcus swallowed hard. Having an alien warrior watching his every move was not going to help his concentration, but he had no choice. He undocked from the Vacrian ship, powered up his engines, and headed toward the debris field. The first part was easy. Large pieces of wreckage floated past his view screen, but they were spread far apart. Marcus wove between them smoothly, his hands steady on the controls. Behind him, Kelthor's ship followed, its larger bulk making the same movements look more dramatic. Then they reached the dense section. Twisted metal filled the space, ahead like a maze made of knives. Pieces of destroyed ships tumbled slowly through the void, their jagged edges catching the light of the distant star. Marcus took a deep breath and plunged in. He flew by instinct and experience, making split-second decisions that sent his ship diving under a spinning hull fragment, rolling to slide through a gap barely wider than his vessel, cutting power to drift past a cluster of sharp debris. His heart pounded. Sweat beaded on his forehead, but his hands never shook. Behind him, Kelthor said nothing, but Marcus could feel those red eyes watching every move. They squeezed through a passage formed by two destroyed cruisers leaning against each other. Marcus had to turn his ship sideways, scraping paint off the hull but making it through. Kelthor's ship, larger and heavier, scraped much more than paint. But it followed. Marcus spotted an opening ahead, a clear path that would take them out of the worst of the debris. He aimed for it, increased speed slightly, and burst through into clearer space. He had done it. He checked his sensors and felt a surge of triumph. They had cut 20 minutes off their travel time. The krill ships were still following the safe route. Marcus and the Vacrians would reach the station first. Credible, Kelthor said softly. The word came out with something that sounded like respect. You flew through that debris field like you were dancing. No hesitation. No fear. Oh, I was afraid, Marcus admitted, wiping sweat from his forehead. But fear and action aren't opposites. Sometimes you have to act even when you're scared. Kelthor was quiet for a moment. Then he said, The Vacrian Empire has fought wars for 300 years. We are the strongest warriors in this sector. Our armor is unbreakable. Our weapons are devastating. Our courage is unmatched. He paused. But we have never learned to dance through danger the way you just did. We break through obstacles. We do not flow around them. Marcus glanced at the alien warrior. Different species, different strengths. You're built for direct combat. Humans are built for problem solving. Perhaps that is why we keep losing, Kelthor muttered, so quietly that Marcus almost did not hear it. Before Marcus could ask what he meant, the station appeared on their sensors. The Meridian Research Station was a massive structure, shaped like a wheel, with spokes connecting to a central hub. It drifted silently in space, dark and apparently lifeless. It's unwat. It's unwat. It's unwat. A Walward. A Walter. A Worm. Colliery. Taller. Well, towlet eyes. Well, why wide? Why I want. I unrad. I why wide. I war. I one eyed. I want I want I why No power signatures, nothing. "We're here first," Marcus said, feeling a rush of excitement. "Let's dock and get those data cores before the krill arrive." But as they approached, Marcus noticed something strange. The station's docking bay doors were open, not just unlocked. Fully open, as if inviting them inside. Kelthor noticed it too. That is not normal. Derelict stations should have sealed doors to preserve atmosphere. "Maybe the crew left in a hurry," Marcus suggested, though he felt a prickle of unease. "Maybe something opened those doors from the inside," Kelthor said grimly. "Human, I suggest we proceed with great caution. Your dancing through debris was impressive, but some dangers cannot be avoided by clever flying." Marcus nodded slowly. The excitement he felt was now mixed with worry. But they had come this far. The data cores were worth a fortune. And he had Vacrian warriors to back him up. How bad could it be? As his ship glided into the dark docking bay, Marcus had the uncomfortable feeling that he was about to find out. Part 3. The derelict raced the docking bay was cold and dark. Marcus's ship settled onto the landing platform with a soft thud that echoed through the empty space. Through his view screen, he could see frost covering the walls and floor. Whatever had happened here, it had happened a long time ago. Kelthor's larger ship landed beside his, the Vacrian vessel's heavy bulk, making the entire platform shake. Marcus gathered his equipment, a flashlight, a toolkit, a portable scanner, and a bag to carry the data cores. Simple tools, but they had never failed him before. When he met Kelthor and his warriors outside the ships, he was struck again by how different they were. The three Vacrians wore full combat armor that gleamed even in the dim emergency lighting. Each carried multiple weapons. Kelthor had a plasma rifle, 2 pistols, and what looked like energy blades attached to his arms. Vex carried a massive cannon that seemed too heavy for anyone to lift. Rallman had a shield generator and some kind of scanning device. Marcus, in comparison, wore his regular clothes and carried a backpack. "You are not wearing protective gear?" Kelthor asked, his tone suggesting this was exactly what he expected from humans, but still disappointed him. "I don't have protective gear," Marcus admitted. "Just these clothes and my tools." Vex made a sound that might have been a groan. The human walks into a derelict station. In hostile space, where the crew mysteriously disappeared, wearing nothing but fabric and carrying a light. "Don't forget the toolkit," Marcus added, trying to lighten the mood. "Very useful toolkits." Kelthor shook his head but said nothing more. He activated his rifle and took point, moving toward the door that led deeper into the station. Marcus followed, with Vex and Rallman taking positions behind him. The Vacrians moved with military precision, checking corners, scanning for threats, communicating through hand signals. Marcus just walked normally. Shining his flashlight around to see where he was going, the station was eerily quiet. Their footsteps echoed off the metal walls. The emergency lights flickered occasionally, casting strange shadows that made Marcus's heart jump. But there was no sign of life. No bodies, no blood, no evidence of a fight. The crew had simply vanished. "The data cores will be in the central research lab," Marcus said, his voice sounding too loud in the silence. "That's usually where stations like this keep their important information." "How do you know this?" Kelthor asked, not taking his eyes off the corridor ahead. "I've salvaged from dozens of research stations. They all follow the same basic design. Central hub for the lab, spokes for living quarters and maintenance. We're currently in Spoke 3, so we need to reach the hub." They moved through the station, following Marcus's directions. The deeper they went, the colder it got. Their breath came out in white clouds. Ice crystals formed on the walls, making them glitter in the flashlight beam. Then they heard it. A distant sound, like metal scraping against metal. It came from somewhere ahead. Echoing through the empty corridors, all three Vacrians immediately dropped into combat stances, weapons raised. Marcus stopped walking and listened. The sound came again, closer this time. Then voices. Harsh, guttural voices speaking a language Marcus did not understand. The krill, Kelther whispered. They found another way in. How? Marcus asked. We were ahead of them. They must have used cutting torches to breach the hull directly, Rollman said, his scanner showing new heat signatures. Faster than docking, but more dangerous. Marcus cursed under his breath. So much for getting here first. Now they would have to deal with krill pirates, who would not be happy about sharing the salvage. They reached the central hub and found exactly what they feared. The research lab was a large, circular room filled with computer terminals, workstations, and storage units. And standing in the middle of it were 5 krill pirates. The krill were insectoid creatures, with hard exoskeletons and multiple arms. They wore mismatched armor pieces scavenged from different species. Their weapons looked crude but effective. When they saw Marcus and the Vakrians enter, they immediately pointed those weapons at them. The largest krill, wearing a helmet decorated with what looked like bones, stepped forward. A translator device on his chest converted his clicking sounds into words. This salvage is ours. Leave now or die. Kelther raised his rifle. We arrived first. The salvage belongs to us. You arrived at the docking bay first, the krill leader said. We arrived at the lab first. That makes it ours. The two groups stared at each other across the room. Marcus could feel the tension building. This was going to turn into a fight. And while the Vakrians were impressive warriors, the krill had numbers and position. It would be bloody. Marcus stepped forward, holding up his hands to show he was unarmed. Wait, let's think about this. There's enough salvage here for everyone. This station has multiple labs and storage areas. Why fight when we can each take what we want and leave? The krill leader's many eyes focused on Marcus. You are human, weak, unarmored. Why should we listen to you? Because fighting is expensive, Marcus said, keeping his voice calm and reasonable. Someone will get hurt. Equipment will get damaged. And if we make too much noise, we might attract attention from other ships in the area. Ships with bigger guns than any of us have. The krill leader considered this. Marcus could see the creature's mind working, weighing options. The krill were pirates, but they were not stupid. They understood cost and benefit. But before the krill could respond, something happened that changed. Everything. The lights went out, not just the emergency lights. Everything, the entire station, plunged into absolute darkness. Marcus heard the krill shouting in alarm. He heard the Vakrians activating night vision systems. But he just stood still, holding his flashlight, waiting. Then the darkness moved. Marcus felt it more than saw it. A presence in the room with them. Something that should not be there. His flashlight flickered. The Vakrians' night vision displays went fuzzy with static. Even the krill's bioluminescent markings dimmed. What is happening? Kelthera's voice cut through the darkness, tight with a tension Marcus had not heard before. Something is here, Rollman said, his scanner beeping frantically. But I cannot get a reading. It is interfering with all our equipment. Marcus swung his flashlight around the room. The beam caught something near the ceiling. Something that looked like crystal, glowing faintly with an inner light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The thing moved. It flowed across the ceiling like liquid, leaving a trail of frost behind it. As it moved, all the electronic equipment in the room began to fail. The Vakrians' armor displays went dark. Their weapons stopped humming. The krill's translator devices sputtered and died. It is feeding on our power, Vex said, struggling to keep his cannon working. The creature consumes electromagnetic energy. The krill leader shouted orders to his crew, but without translators, the Vakrians and Marcus could not understand him. The krill opened fire on the creature, but their energy weapons only seemed to make it stronger. It grew larger, brighter, and more active. Kelther fired his plasma rifle. The shot hit the creature dead center, and for a moment, it seemed to work. The thing recoiled, pulling back toward the ceiling. But then it absorbed the plasma energy and grew even bigger. Stop shooting, Marcus yelled. You are feeding it. But in the chaos, no one listened. The krill kept firing. The Vakrians kept firing. And the creature kept growing. Marcus watched the disaster unfolding and realized something important. This creature fed on technology, on power, on the electromagnetic fields generated by weapons and armor and scanners. Everyone in this room was covered in exactly the kind of energy the creature wanted. Everyone except him. While the others panicked and fired uselessly at the growing threat, Marcus calmly walked to one of the workstations. His flashlight was mechanical, powered by a simple battery. It did not generate the kind of field the creature fed on. He set down his backpack and pulled out his toolkit. Inside was a small container of thermite. He had brought it to cut through locked doors if necessary. But it would work for this too. Marcus grabbed 3 chemical flares from a supply locker on the wall. The old-fashioned kind that research stations kept for emergencies. The kind that worked through basic chemical reactions instead of electricity. He cracked them open, and bright red light flooded the room. The creature recoiled from the chemical light. It did not like that. It preferred electromagnetic energy. "Everyone, stop using your weapons," Marcus shouted. "Turn off your armor. Turn off everything electronic." Kelthar understood immediately. He powered down his rifle and his armor's main systems. "Do as the human says," he ordered his warriors. The Krill did not understand the words, but they saw what the Vakrians were doing and followed suit. One by one, the weapons went silent. The armor systems shut down. The room grew quieter, and the creature stopped growing. Marcus lit the thermite, threw it at the floor beneath the creature. The chemical reaction created intense heat and bright light. The creature shrieked, a sound that hurt to hear, and retreated to the far corner of the room. "Now," Marcus shouted, "drive it back into the containment area." He did not know if anyone understood his plan, but he grabbed his chemical flares and ran toward the corner where he had seen a heavy door marked with warning symbols. A containment cell, designed to hold dangerous research subjects, Kelthar understood. The Vakrian warrior grabbed his own flares from the wall and joined Marcus. Together, they used the chemical light and heat to push the creature toward the containment cell. The Krill, seeing what they were doing, helped. Without words, without coordination. The 2 groups worked together to force the creature back. The creature fought, lashing out with crystalline tendrils. It caught one of the Krill, and the pirate's exoskeleton frosted over instantly. But his companions pulled him free, and they kept pushing. Finally, the creature retreated into the containment cell. Marcus slammed his hand on the manual door control, and heavy blast doors slid shut. The creature was trapped. For a long moment, no one moved. They all stood in the red light of the chemical flares, breathing hard, staring at the sealed door. Then Kelthar started to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the room. The human did it. With flares and thermite, he defeated what our weapons could not touch. The Krill leader looked at Marcus with what might have been respect in his multifaceted eyes. Without a translator, he could not speak, but he nodded slowly. Marcus just smiled weakly. "Can we get the salvage now? Before anything else goes wrong?" Part 4. What lurks in the dark the containment cell held, but no one trusted it to last forever. The creature inside pulsed with that strange crystalline light, throwing shadows across the walls. Marcus could see it searching for any crack, any weakness in the door. They needed to work fast. Kelthar's armor systems came back online slowly, the electronics recovering from the electromagnetic drain. His translator crackled to life, and he turned to the Krill leader. "The humans saved us all. I propose a temporary truce. We divide the salvage equally and leave this cursed place." The Krill leader's translator sputtered a few times before working properly. When it did, his words were grudging but practical. "Agreed. Half the data cores for us, half for you. But we work quickly. That thing will not stay contained forever." Marcus was already moving toward the main computer terminal. His hands flew over the keyboard, accessing the station's database. The others spread out through the lab, the Vakrians taking the left side and the Krill taking the right. There was still tension between them, still the possibility of betrayal, but for now they had a common enemy. "The data cores are encrypted," Marcus said, frowning at the screen. "I need access codes to extract them without corrupting the data. Can you break the encryption?" Kelther asked, positioning himself to watch both the containment cell and the krill. Maybe, but it will take time. Time we do not have. Marcus scrolled through the files, looking for anything useful. That was when he found the research logs. The Meridian Research Station had been studying something called the Silence. According to the logs, it was a region of space where all electromagnetic signals died. Ships that entered the Silence lost power, communication, everything. The researchers had discovered that the region was not empty. It was full of creatures like the one now trapped in the containment cell. Creatures that fed on energy and left only cold, dark silence behind. They were studying those things, Marcus muttered, reading faster. They captured one to understand how it worked. But something went wrong. What went wrong? Vex asked, his cannon still powered down, but ready. The creature called others. They came through the walls somehow, phasing through solid matter. The researchers tried to evacuate, but the creatures drained their ship's power before they could escape. Everyone died. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air, or everyone disappeared. The logs are not clear. Roman checked his scanner. If that is true, there may be more of these creatures in the station. We need to leave now. But Marcus kept reading. Buried in the research notes, he found something interesting. The creatures avoided certain frequencies of light and sound. Natural frequencies, like those produced by fire or by human vocal cords. The researchers had discovered that the creatures evolved in the Silence, where technology did not exist. They had no defense against primitive non-electronic stimuli. That is why the chemical flares worked, Marcus said, and why the creature avoided us when we shouted. It is adapted to drain technology, but it cannot handle natural phenomena. The krill leader clicked his mandibles impatiently. Very interesting. But can you get the data cores or not? Marcus found an override code in the research notes. Apparently, the head researcher had left it in the logs in case of emergency. He entered it, and the encryption fell away. At it. I can extract the cores now. He pulled out the portable storage device from his backpack and started the download. The data began flowing, gigabytes of research on the Silence, the creatures, and everything the station had learned. It would take 5 minutes to complete. 5 very long minutes. The creature in the containment cell was getting more active. It pressed against the door and frost spread across the metal surface. The temperature in the room dropped further. Everyone could see their breath now. It is trying to freeze the door mechanism, Kelther observed. When the metal becomes brittle enough, it will break through. And we make noise, Marcus said. He started humming. Just a simple tune his mother used to sing. It felt ridiculous in the middle of an alien research station with a monster trying to break free. Oh. The creature recoiled slightly from the sound. The others joined in. The Vacrians hummed in their deep, resonant voices. The krill made clicking sounds that formed a rhythm. It was the strangest chorus Marcus had ever heard, but it kept the creature at bay. The download reached 50%, then 60%. Marcus watched the progress bar like his life depended on it, because it probably did. That was when the lights went out again. This time, it was not the creature in the containment cell. This was something else. Something worse. Marcus felt the temperature plummet even further. His flashlight beam showed what looked like mist forming in the air, but it was not mist. It was crystalline formations, spreading through the atmosphere. They are here, Rallman said quietly. More of them. Coming through the walls, Marcus saw them. Shapes, moving in the darkness, glowing faintly with that eerie light. One appeared behind a krill pirate, reaching out with crystalline tendrils. The pirate's armor frosted over instantly, and he collapsed. Chaos erupted. The krill scattered, trying to stay away from the creatures. The Vacrians formed a defensive circle, but their weapons were useless. Every time they fired, the creatures absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Kelther shouted, "Use anything else." Vex grabbed a metal chair and swung it at a creature. The physical impact actually worked, shattering part of the crystalline form. The creature retreated, wounded. They can be hurt by physical force. The krill caught on quickly. They had multiple arms, perfect for hand-to-hand combat. They grabbed tools, furniture, anything solid and heavy. The battle became a brutal melee. Aliens fighting crystalline monsters with improvised weapons. Marcus stayed at the computer terminal, protecting the download. 70%. 80%. He grabbed his toolkit and pulled out a wrench, ready to defend himself if necessary. A creature flowed toward him, tendrils reaching. Marcus swung the wrench with all his strength. It connected, and the creature shattered like glass. But more were coming. Too many to fight. 90% Kelther appeared beside Marcus. Having abandoned his rifle for a metal beam torn from the wall, he swung it in wide arcs, keeping the creatures back. How much longer, human? 10 seconds. Those were the longest 10 seconds of Marcus's life. Creatures surrounded them. The krill were falling back, dragging their wounded. Vex and Rollman fought desperately to hold the line. The cold was so intense that Marcus could barely feel his fingers. Then the download completed. Got it? Marcus yanked the storage device free and shoved it into his backpack. Everyone out. Now they ran. It was not an organized retreat. It was a panicked scramble for survival. Marcus led the way because he remembered the route back to the docking bay. The Vacrians and Krill followed, fighting off creatures that appeared in their path. Behind them, the containment cell finally gave way. The first creature broke free and joined its companions in pursuit. The station filled with crystalline entities, all flowing toward the fleeing salvagers. Marcus's lungs burned. His legs ached, but he kept running, guided by his flashlight beam. He could hear the others behind him, their footsteps echoing in the cold corridors. They burst into the docking bay and ran for their ships. Marcus practically threw himself up his ship's ramp. Kelthor and his warriors were right behind him, heading for their own vessel. The krill scattered to their ships, carrying their wounded.
Undock.
Undock! Marcus shouted into his comm system. His ship roared to life, engines burning hot. He lifted off the platform without waiting for permission or clearance. Through his view screen, he saw the creatures pouring into the docking bay. They filled the space like a wave of crystalline death, but they stopped at the edge of the platform. Unwilling or unable to enter the vacuum of space, Marcus's ship shot out of the bay and into open space. Kelthor's vessel was right beside him. 3 krill ships followed, limping but functional. They had all made it out. Barely, Marcus set his course away from the station, his hands shaking on the controls. He had the data cores. The information was worth a fortune, but the price had been high. Too high? Human Kelthor's voice came through the comm. You have earned the respect of the Vacrian Empire today. You thought quickly. You used simple tools to defeat a threat our advanced technology could not touch. You saved many lives. Marcus wanted to feel proud, but all he felt was exhausted. We got lucky. If that creature had broken out 30 seconds earlier, but it did not, Kelthor interrupted. And that is what matters. You humans, you do not have armor or weapons or strength, but you have something else. You have the ability to see solutions where we see only problems. You dance when we would fight. You create when we would destroy. The krill leader's voice crackled through the comm, his translator working again. The human has earned his share of the salvage. We will not contest it, but... the krill paused. If he ever needs assistance in the future, tell him to call. The krill syndica. Kelthor's eyes gleamed with something that might have been amusement, because those other humans have adapted to galactic society. They wear armor now. They carry advanced weapons. They think like the rest of us. He gestured around Marcus's simple, cluttered ship. You have not adapted. You still think like a human from Earth, solving problems with creativity and improvisation instead of technology and force. That is exactly what we need. After Kelthor left, Marcus sat alone in his quarters, processing everything that had just happened. His life had changed completely in less than a week, all because he had been too tired to put on pajamas before going to sleep. He laughed at the absurdity of it. The mighty Vacrian Empire, brought to the edge of defeat by an adaptive enemy, saved by a human who slept without clothes and showered without weapons. It sounded like the beginning of a joke, but it was real. and it was his new reality. Marcus began preparing for the journey to the Vacrian homeworld. He organized his salvage, secured his ship's systems, and packed a bag with clothes. Actual clothes this time? He was going to be meeting admirals and commanders. He should probably look presentable. As he worked, his mind was already racing ahead, thinking about the Shrell problem. An enemy that adapted to every tactic, that absorbed every strategy. How would humans deal with that on Earth? They would use guerrilla warfare. They would use misinformation. They would use economics and psychology and social engineering. They would fight on every level except the purely military one. The Vacrians thought in terms of warriors and battles. Humans thought in terms of systems and leverage points. Maybe that was the key. Marcus recorded a log entry, something he did occasionally to keep track of his thoughts. Day 1247 of operating in the contested regions. Today I became an advisor to an alien empire. They want me to teach them how to think like a human. I still do not fully understand what that means, but I am going to try. Because if there is one thing humans are good at, it is surviving against impossible odds. We do it by being creative, adaptable, and just stubborn enough to keep trying when any sane species would give up. He paused, then added with a smile, "Also, I have learned an important lesson. Always wear clothes to bed. You never know when an alien warrior might be watching." 3 days later, Marcus's small salvage ship entered Vacrian space, escorted by Kelthor's combat vessel. They jumped to hyperspace, heading for the homeworld of an empire, desperate for a new way to fight. Marcus looked out at the swirling colors of hyperspace and thought about the long, strange journey that had brought him here. From Earth to the outer colonies, from colonies to salvage work, from salvage work to military advisor, it was not the life he had planned, but maybe it was the life he was meant for. After all, humans had always been survivors. They had always found a way forward, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. They had climbed out of caves and built cities. They had crossed oceans in wooden boats. They had reached for the stars when everyone said it was impossible. And now, maybe they would teach an alien empire how to do the same. Marcus smiled and settled into his pilot's chair. Whatever came next, it would be interesting. And if there was one thing Marcus Chen had learned in his years of salvage work, it was that interesting was another word for opportunity. The stars streamed past and the future waited ahead.